Good evening and welcome to another episode of A Conversation with John Conenna. Tonight, this will be audio only as we speak to the legendary Hall of Fame inductee in 1992, the one, the only Marcel Dionne. Marcel, what is going on over there in Niagara and what are you doing, young man?
Well, the guy you talked about, I don't know him. That was about 50 years ago.
Yeah. But I have a funny feeling, Marcel. I know we can't see you tonight, but I have a funny feeling that you could probably still lace them up and go around that rink. I just have that feeling after seeing you the other day when you did my cameo appearance. But really, what is going on with you these days, Marcel, before we go?
Just a minute. Here's what happened. I retired in 1989. So that's the time, the gap. Okay, and I'm going to tell you what it's all about when you ask me these questions. When I was 20 years old, I played in the NHL. And I met some of my past players when they were 70 years old. John, they were really old. They were really old.
Right.
Okay? So I am in the same boat today. The difference is you have more access to technology and all that stuff. And it's really tricky. I don't know what age group your audience is, but I try to keep myself, every night something happens, I Google somebody. Because you forget you're getting older,
Right.
especially in sports, and then you start losing players. I said, no, that can't be. Then you look at the age, 75. Geez, I thought he was a lot older than that, but I'm 71. For example, Mike Bossy,
Right.
Cardelis. I mean, they're guys that have been around with them a lot.
Sure.
And it jumps at you, John, and it's difficult. I'm very positive about everything. My life is fulfilled. I've been very, very fortunate to play a great game. But the day I retired, John, that was it. I went on. I made a promise to myself that I would never work for somebody.
Wow.
And it never did happen. And the simple reason is I Googled somebody the other day, and he's been out of movies. Gene Hackman, for example. You forget. You watch these movies, they're 30 years old.
They're 30 years old, yeah.
That's right. So what happened, I read the thing, and he's 91, 92 years old. And he said that he retired 20 years ago and never went back into acting.
Wow.
John, I was pissed off because he was one of my favorites. Didn't get always look back, right?
Sure.
And what happened as an athlete, that's my thing to you. And I really enjoyed doing the cameo for you.
That was fantastic.
And it's the same thing. All the hockey cards I get through the mail, the things I do, unless I'm very public in certain places, they forget your aging.
Exactly.
John, I have no mirrors in my bathroom. I don't want to reflect on what they used to be.
Right. Well, but I got to ask you, I know, and I appreciate you opening it up like this. And again, like I says, for the audience that's listening to this is going to be, we would have loved to have seen you, but this is great on your part to take some time. I got to ask you, you, of course, had to be one of the top players ever to come out of Drummondville, Quebec, Canada. Is that where it starts for you in Drummondville?
Yes, it did. Yeah, I played my minor hockey and even junior rate hockey in Drummondville. And I played 1 year, won the championship. And then I left. I left on my own. I went to Ontario. Played for the St. Catharines Blackhawks for 3 years in Ontario. And one of the main reasons I did that, they suspended me. I missed the first 6 games, 7 games. One thing I knew right away, I wanted to speak English, learn English. I thought this was going to be important in my life. And John, at the end of the day, this was a great move. Now it's much easier to have a second language when you're coming from Quebec.
Sure.
Access to it. But at the time, everything was in French, So,
it was French, yes.
I was very curious, and I did it, and the rest is history.
Well, let me ask you something. When you say St. Catharines, so actually at that time you were property of my favorite team, the Chicago Blackhawks, correct?
No, it just finished in 1967 when the expansion came along. The sponsorship, the NHL sponsorship with all these teams, just like the great Bobby Orr was in Oshawa, belonged to the Boston Bruins. Basically, it was done. So most of the ownerships, people had to buy the teams, and then they went through the universal draft.
I see.
So that's how you got picked. And but I was very attracted to the Blackhawks because they had all these great players that played there.
Oh, sure.
They were in junior hockey at Bobby Hall, Phil Esposito, you go on, you name it. And coming from Drummondville, the only player was Yvon Cornway, but he left Drummondville when he was, I think, 13 years old. He didn't do too bad, eh?
No, the Roadrunner didn't do too bad. No.
Yeah, I know, not bad at all.
Not bad.
I never got a smell of it. That's it. I said sometimes when I did, give me one of those things, even just for a week or something.
But yeah, you had a great career. You had a great career out of Drummondville, of course. And then, just reading about you, like you said, at the Pee Wee level and playing over there. And I think it was through your junior season and through 68 and all that. I will never forget, it was the 1971-72 season. And I want to tell you, we are exactly 9 years apart. You get drafted, of course, by the Detroit Red Wings, correct?
Yes, you're right.
Yeah. And at that time, Howard just retired, but I was looking at that roster when you came to the NHL, and it was in 71-72. I mean, on that Detroit team, you had, of course, Red Berenson, who had just gotten traded for Gary Unger. You had Gary Bergman. You had the great Alex Delvecchio, who was up in age. I mean, Alex was already about 39 years old. You had an upstart guy, another Frenchman named Guy Charon. You had Nick Libet, and you had Mickey Redmond, Tommy Webster. The goaltending was Joe Daly, I think, Andy Brown, and Al Smith. But in your heart of hearts, and you had an unbelievable rookie season. I used to call you from Chicago. Oh, boy, here comes the water bug into the stadium. I used to call you the water bug because, I didn't want you to score off Tony Esposito, who's my idol. We'll get to that story because I want to find out the truth about something that you did to Tony. But how was that when you came to Detroit? Were you excited? Because all these players that I mentioned were no slouches, Marcel.
No, you're right on, but it just goes back to what I said to you that when I finished my career, I never looked back, ever come back into as a job in the NHL and you name it. What I saw there, it was the first time that I was really confused that within 2 months of the schedule, you're right, you name all these guys. And I was very, very respectful of them. But within 2 months, I was the best player.
Oh, without a doubt.
I was not prepared for that. Like when you're a junior, you're 16, you play against the best 20-year-old at the time. Now, they're drafted when they're 18, right? So, we probably could have come at the same time, myself, Lafleur, Chiltro at the time, and start at 18. But then the rule was 20. So
right.
I played 2 more years in junior. But I was having a tough time. So when you play junior hockey, it's sort of you graduate, right? You're 16, you play against the best 19. Next year, you're 17, you play against still the best 19. Then you're 18, you play against then you're 19, you're the best 19, play against the best 19.
Right.
And for me, I have always played with people that the coaches, managers, that being a kid, they were very respectful. They were this, that. But when I got there, that was the year. And you know what? It is what it was. Ned Harkness.
Yeah, the coach there.
Prior to that, what he did, he traded everybody.
Yeah.
A year before that, because the players went on strike. I was playing junior hockey in Buffalo, They lost like 12 something the night before in Toronto, and they went on strike. They were going to strike if they don't get hardness out of the way.
Right.
And so what happened? Cody was on the team, and what happened? There was a vote they wanted to get rid of, and the director of the NHL, it was Alan Nicholson, he had to go there and decided, okay, they get rid of it. But they got rid of him, and they promoted him as the manager.
Wow.
When he came through that year, right, to finish the season, training camp, he traded everybody. That's when Frank Mahovlich went to Montreal. That's where a lot of guys, Tommy Webster, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, they traded Gary Unger for an older Red Berenson.
No, but he fit in. The Reds fit in. That was the thing. And Gary Unger went on. I played with him and against him. Sometimes that's the way it is.
Right.
But there was a lot of things missing. If you don't have that component in management, you don't have that coach, you don't have that manager, you don't have that owner, you know what? Can't do it.
Right.
They're the ones got to put it together. We're athletes. What do you want me to do?
Right.
And you do whatever you want to do. Now the elite, you with the players. Then they have a so-called system. You have the ability to play, and I had that.
Right.
What do we do? Who do I play with? I mean, I could play with anybody, but not everybody can play with everybody. That's the problem.
Exactly.
And, so now there's lack of scoring, there's lack of toughness, and then that's how you don't make it. And that was awful there. It was very, very difficult. We got a execute Edmund 2 years of 50 goals.
Sure.
Danny Brent played with him 50 goals. And we have the goalies. They were special, Bailey and Brown. I mean, Andy Brown played without a mask.
He played without a mask, yeah.
Played without a mask. Well, that's got to be a crazy person. And he was a crazy person.
Sure. Oh, yeah, he was. I mean, yeah, to play without a mask in a game. I know you were saying even the cameo that he played with the mask in practice. But, yeah, Brown, like, and you talked about Gump Worsley. Of course, and at this point, any goalies are crazy to get in there to face a puck coming off the stick of you or Bobby Hall, for sure. But what I found amazing about those early Detroit years with you is, you saw this destruction of this team that at one time in the 60s was always in the playoffs, was a powerhouse. And like you said, there was no more cohesiveness. But you had the state of mind to say, hey, I can't stick around for this. But you did it in a way because maybe, you still would have been the superstar player. Don't get me wrong. But, you were, I think, in some essence, looking to get better. And the move to the Kings was, I think, fantastic. What were your thoughts when you moved on to the Kings in that 75-76 season?
That's a good question, but there was only one thing. It was an issue with contracts.
Got it.
And those days didn't have the freedom of free agency. There was a league called the World Hockey Association.
Yes.
And then if you left, there was no compensation. For me, I was negotiating this and that, my age and whatever. And I was happy then. I mean, I was hoping that things would turn around. I was only about 3.5, 4 hours away from Niagara. I mean, and it was fun to play there at the Olympia. But we hit a little glitch there, and they said, well, once you go and find out what your worth is, well, it didn't take too long. Jack Getcook, at the time, offered $300,000 a year for 5 years, and that type the contract was unheard of. Not even Bobby or had that.
That was a ton of money, Marcel, back then. That was a ton of money.
Are you freaking kidding me? Yeah. So then I started to look into this, and I said, you know what? I think everybody needs a break here. Maybe it's time to take a bill. So by doing this, I went to Edmonton. If I signed with Edmonton, then they're not getting any compensation. So, and I knew that when I went to Edmonton, I was offered a contract, $250,000 for 5 years, whatever it is. And then, but with Los Angeles, they got compensation. Those two players, Dan Maloney and Terry Harper.
Terry Harper, and you got some, and they got some cash in the deal too, right, Marcel?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And, but that was really something. And believe it or not, I have Buck Holford for a couple of years. It was starting to really happen, and I felt like this is the NHL. So this is how you play.
Right.
And he left. He went to
He
Chicago.
came to Chicago in '77, right?
I said, you can't do that. You can't do that. Okay, he went, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
Here's the bottom line. It's my size, okay? Like my dad was 6'1", big guy, and when we were at training camp, my dad, there was a press conference. He showed up with my mom. Then I go to, he said, "What happened to you?" My dad was 6'2", 240, a strong man. I said, "Well, look at my mom. I mean, she's 5'2". I mean, what do you expect?"
Right.
To tell you the truth, okay, Twitter, you're very nice what you said about me. But the fact that I had a small frame, but nobody knew how strong I was, and that hurt. That was never, they don't expect, it's like in football. You watch a running back. They used to be the all big guys.
Right.
Now they don't have little guys, right? It's speed. They can't hit them. They can tackle them. The big guys get mad. But for me, John, I never thought of that. I never saw myself as a short guy. Never did.
No.
Until John, when I retired. I started looking at these photos. I look at replays and things like, what was I doing looking at this game?
Yeah.
I was in front of that, then 6'4" and 6'5", and that's the thing. That's the passion,
Right.
confidence, and the no fear, and to score that many goals, to get that many points. There's not one French Canadian, not Brady Lemieux, not Guy Lafleur, not the Wildcat, ever scored as many goals as I did as many points.
Sure.
And it should be that way. You know what I mean? I was going, what am I doing it? And they were not even close. He got hurt there. The big guy, 6'6". What a player. What a player.
Sure. But, I'm going to say something to you that maybe it's never been said to you before. Watching the tail end of the 60s, and you saw guys like the great Stan Mikita, and you saw guys like the Jean Béliveau, okay? But when you and Guy Lafleur came into the league in the early 70s, and of course, the one and only Gilbert Perreault, you guys kind of changed the game, because now I felt, as the outsider looking in, you guys were this elusive center, yes, with speed, yes, they couldn't catch you, first of all, and then if you did take a hit, you would brace yourself for that hit, where a Mikita and a Béliveau, as good as they were for that style of game, I felt the Dionnes and the Lafleurs and the Gilbert Perreaults changed the game. Do you agree with me or disagree?
No, you have a valid point that the asset that I have watching these great players, it's so great. It's fun you say that, because my hero growing up, it was Sean Béliveau.
Sure.
That was my guy. And then when I turned pro, John, I said, I'm thinking the wrong guy. Now the guys are Stan Mikita, Yvon Conway, Dave Keon. All were very light stature, but good at stick handling. You look at the old tapes, right? So
oh, wow.
Different game, plus where everybody had the red line there. Now there's no red line, where it's different. But for me, I had the combination. I could move the puck. I like to play. You give it to me, I give it back to you. I finished my feet to the front of the net. Because once you go to the net, in those days, you pay the price.
Without a doubt, yeah.
So it was. So you have to learn how to move around.
Sure.
And even watching players that are, they always say they're small. I mean, you look at Patrick Kane, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
He's freaking 175 pounds, and he's dazzle here, dazzle there. So, but there's an adjustment. It's always like the old story for me. I'm going next door. I walk in with Eric Lindros, right, and myself, and then there's two dogs, right? There's a German Shepherd and there's a Bulldog. I'll tell you something. The German Shepherd, he looks at Eric Lindros. He says, "Oh, I got to take a piece of him, right?" But the little Bulldog, he looks at me, and I know what's going to happen. He won't let go. So that's the way I was. I would come back. And then, I was picked twice as the most valuable player by the Players Association. And
Oh,
I'm
my
very,
God.
very grateful for that, because writers, I had a tendency, they didn't like me. For some reason, that was always the thing with Guy Lafleur and so on, that we were very good friends. We didn't care about that.
Sure.
But coming from your peers, it's the ultimate.
Oh, without question.
I'll tell you a quick story.
Sure. I love it.
Team Canada. Okay, first started we 72. It's the 50th anniversary.
You should have been on that team, Marcel, but go on.
Well, I've learned a lot from watching that. So now what's a quick what I'm telling you about sports writers and company. So what happened in '76? There's too many centers. Right? There's Bobby Clark, there's Phil Esposito, there's 5-6 centers. So Phil was the big guy in '72. Now he comes to '76. It's not the same thing. It's 4 years later. So now I got a black jersey, and I was at training camp with Bobby Call, and he's there. And I'm telling you, we were the best line. Playing with Bobby, you just didn't have to do too much. Give it a punt, move it to the net.
Right.
It set him up, and he skated all over the ice. So this is true story. Phyllis Real comes to the right guy. If I don't play with you, he says, they're not going to play. So what they did, they put me on the right side. Watch this. That's how genius. That's how geniuses everybody is. I never played right wing. Ever.
Not even in Pee-wees.
So now we go back to I go back to my training camp after we won Team Canada. It was an incredible hockey team and so many Hall of Famers.
Sure.
So when I get to Los Angeles, Bob Fulford was the coach, but he was a U.S. coach too.
Yes.
So he saw me there. He saw me play that right wing. So I come back to the camp and everything, and then we have the same problem. We got too many centers. So he puts me in right wing.
Wow.
I scored. What's this? I scored, I think 52 goals. Okay? Plus points on. You know, for picking the All-Stars, most of the writers pick me as a center.
Right.
And I never played center the whole year. I scored 52. How tough is that? I said, Jesus, what's the point? Everybody's bitching and complaining.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God.
Bob Fulford knew, and then you know what it did? It helped another player, a younger player, to develop and have less pressure.
Sure.
I would go back and play on the bar, play and all that stuff. So I'm very grateful to Bob Fulford, and like I told you, he left. And at first he was leery about me because I would score goals.
Right.
He liked that. He wanted to have all the players equal. Yeah, you back check, you check your checker.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine. I think the puck and I go. And you know what? Then he goes like that. We're killing penalties. I never kill penalties. He puts me out there. He says, go for it.
Wow.
Go for it. I mean,
The confidence he had in you was tremendous.
don't do the number. Now, if you see a break, go for it.
Right.
And he can do that.
Wow.
I scored a lot of short-handed goals, but the fact that he would tell me normally, just the penalties, it just makes you.
Sure.
Then the time he said, don't keep you have to lose on the defense. You have it. And I was very successful. I was very.
Oh my God, I can imagine. Marcel, I know we're touching on a little bit, and I know your time is valuable here tonight, and I appreciate you coming on here. Was Pulford?
What do you mean, John? I have nothing else to do.
Okay, good. Then you know what, we'll talk. Listen, you got the wrong guy because we'll talk hockey all night here. No, but who was responsible for that Triple Crown line with two gentlemen that I know you probably love playing with yourself, Charlie Simmer and Dave Taylor? Was it Bulford?
No, that was Bob Berry.
Bobby Berry. Okay. Now, so Bob Berry put that line together.
Dave Taylor came to camp, and right off the bat, I was very close to the trainer, right? And we were talking, and he says, "Who's that kid? Who's that kid?" Played on Clarksville, right? And he was all over the place, and he banged people. I said, "What was this guy? It was training camp. Slow down, right?" And I liked him right away. So he stuck with me. But Charlie Simmer was another story. Charlie Simmer's career was almost done. He came from Cleveland.
Of the WHA, right? The Barons?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I remember when they merged, but he played he started with Oakland. So when I saw him, I just seen him before, I like this guy. So he came to training camp, and I said, "Oh, he's up and down, and he's doing this and doing that." And well, by the way, they all think they know everything, right? I'll just send him down. So what happened? I had a left winger. We were in Detroit, and my left winger got hurt, and they called him up, and I think he only had one assist that game. Okay.
Wow.
But I got 4 goals.
Wow.
And he was part of it. He was part of it. And it was against Roky Vachon. I played with him in Los Angeles, got traded to Detroit, and they came after and says, "How could you score 4 goals on Roky?" I said, "4 goals? Who do you think was teaching him how to stop the puck? It was me." He would say, "Marcel, I give too much, and I give too much." So I think I cheated on him.
Sure you did. I know.
Yeah. And that was the start with Charlie. And trust me, for 3 years, it was like absolutely incredible how we moved with the puck.
The move. Right.
And the problem was when we got into the playoffs, they really focused on it. They hit us from left to right. They jumped at us. And that's when you have to have the third line, the fourth line.
Yeah.
Or one here score that. Then now you have the more breathing room. But they are absolutely two of the nicest guys. I'm still in touch with Charlie Simmer. He lives in Texas. And Dave just moved from, he's in California. He went to Irvine County. And he still, I think, works with the St. Louis Blues. And
sure.
Wonderful guys.
And I want to say this, Marcel, of course, watching you play with them. And like you said, it was just, you guys knew where you were the whole time. Again, if I can remember lines, it was that line, of course, with, Dave Taylor and Charlie Simmer and yourself. Of course, the comparison for me will always be Perreault, Martin, and Rennie Robert in Buffalo. And, of course, Hatfield, Rattel, and Rod Gilbert. It was the same kind of unit where you guys knew where you were on the ice. It was fantastic. Who gave you guys the name, the Triple Crown line?
Billy always had that fun contest,
Uh-huh.
So it was interesting. And again, coming back to that, there's no more great lines.
No.
I was watching Edmonton the other night. I was watching, and Ivan and Destillery, what's the name of his name? Drexel, right? And Connor McDavid. They are as close as a unit.
Yes.
Because they're scoring all the goals.
Sure.
And that was the problem. That's what happened with us too. The guys for the second line, it was not as bad, but the third and fourth line, they got to watch. They couldn't do what we did, and they got to watch. Instead of saying, "Forget it, I can't do that, but I'm going to do my own thing," they couldn't do it. So I'm watching Edmonton. That's why they're still not running away with the guy with Connor McDavid right now. They're watching.
Right.
I was going to get Colorado the other night. Colorado's not in that game.
Yeah, exactly.
McDavid got them like he's winning. Well, he's all over the place. He's terrible. And they lost to So this should be, instead of Boston, this should be like ahead by, who knows? So that's lacking. And I truly believe that. You don't know until you go back. That was an issue with us. I remember at one time, 4 games, we got all the goals, all the points.
Right.
And that's not right. That's just not right. And I tell you something, the audience might not know this. Certain games where we're fully in control with 8-9 minutes going, power play, and tap, I would turn around and say, hey, we have our share, gives other guys a chance.
Right.
And I want to tell you, not too many guys do that. I think Gretzky with the last minute, and Glenn Sater puts him out there, after it's freaking 9-1. That's what he's doing. It's just, that's the way it is. You don't put it in the other guy's face. But to your guys, that's an opportunity sometimes they don't have. And then you get hurt, something happens, just give them confidence. And I knew that. And that's the side of the game that most of the people I played for would never see that.
No, exactly. Yeah, no, I know you.
I said, yeah.
No, you say it well, and again, I saw where I read, and of course I remember this following it, where you took guys like Luc Robitaille, who was a Cult Trophy winner, Jimmy Carson at the time, Steve Duchesne. You were great at taking players under your wing and showing them, what had to be done. And that's just a tremendous thing that you did. I mean, over those years with the rapport that you had, with rookies and everything.
Well, California's not an easy place to play. It's a lot of fun, but you got to make a commitment, because as soon as you leave the arena, you're on your own. But
right.
A guy like me and Gretzky, some other guys, because you're in the front page of the sports in the LA Times or the Herald Examiner. Well, you see your faces, right? Because basketball is predominant, baseball, football, so it's not the same thing that you were playing at Toronto or Montreal where, oh my God, right? As soon as you leave, they follow you. But the thing is with them, it was the first time in my career that I finally saw good young players come in. And I said, no way. I have to jump in, because half of the team is at the beach and the other half is on the ice.
Make a decision.
I said, you guys got a choice.
Yeah, make a decision here.
You stick with me and a couple guys and said, you're going to learn things. If you go with the other guys, they're not bad guys.
Yeah,
you just can't wait to go to the beach and have a look at all these girls on the beach.
yeah, for sure. Oh my God. And I got to tell you, Marcel, just looking down on the resume of over the years, I mean, you had awards in the OHA, and of course, I think you're in a 10, I could be wrong by 1 year here because I'm getting a little dizzy looking at all the awards, but you were a 10-time All-Star first and second year, Lady Byng winner. You were named one of the best forwards at the World Hockey Championship, Lester B. Pearson Award winner, I think 2-3 times, of course, Art Ross. And of course, how was it for you to be inducted in 1992 into the National Hockey League Hall of Fame? What went through your mind when you got the call for that?
Well, I'll be very honest with you. Do you think I was not going into the hall?
Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait, just one stat alone, I think you should have got in. 731 goals.
Yeah. And you know what? It was very cool. People were asking me about this, and they got to retire New Jersey. And then what happened, I was ready to retire, and I did. It was done. But I was focusing so much on what was ahead of me, and I was not paying any attention to that. And looking back, which was different ways of how it's done at the Hockey Hall of Fame now, or even other sports, that I was happy, but I was more happy than my friends and all that stuff.
Right.
At the same time, it's a tremendous reward that you get.
Sure.
But I didn't dwell on it. What it is today, if I had to sign an autograph, I go to Marcel Dionne, said, please put your Hall of Fame here. Okay.
Yeah, no, right. But
so it's very important. But the sad part, I think, and maybe your audience think, there is some guys right now should be in a hall.
Oh, without a doubt.
I'm telling you. Now, I'll say it because it is what it is, but they're going to say that I'm racist, right? For some reason, the last few years, there's more women going into the hall than there's other players. And the thing is, I'm looking and said, okay, and I enjoy it. But when you watch women's hockey, it's two teams.
Right.
It's the United States and Canada.
Sure.
These girls, I've seen them. I raised somebody last summer and all that. Holy Christ. They're 6 feet tall and they're beautiful. They can't even wear high heel shoes. They can't. They just wear what they want. They all probably have running shoes and skates on. Tremendous athletes. But now, when you're in the NHL, 32 teams, it's everywhere, players coming from everywhere, different countries.
Right.
If you go back in 1972, there was not that many. The Russians and Czechs and the Swedes in the league, and it started to come in.
Sure.
Wow, there's tremendous athletes, and I think it's just like anything else. They try to please, because that's the way the system is today. And I think there's some players that are left behind that should be in there. And there's another thing, is the staff. I think the staff's overrated.
Oh, without a doubt.
Baseball, in baseball, you're a pitcher and you got 300 wins, you're in, right? You're in. If you hit 500 home runs in baseball, you're in. But hockey is not. Sometimes it's not there. I remember when Bob Gainey went in, because he won all these cups there. I played hockey when he was my left winger in Europe, right? I played in tournaments. This guy, I set him up for 10 breakaways. He never scored one.
Oh my God.
In the Hall of Fame. Then he became a manager. Then he became a coach. I said, what do I know? That was surprised of anything. So it's a different game. It's a different thing with the Hall.
Yes.
I don't know why some guys, there's 25, I think 19 to 25 people that pick, but I think it's political too.
Yeah, I mean, I that's not something I wanted to get into with you, but like there are two guys that I'm hoping that get in, and they're from your era. Well, one was a little bit before, but you remember him growing up as a kid, and the other one is a goaltender. The one that I'd like to see get in from Montreal is Claude Provost. I thought he was a tremendous player, and the other one I'd like to see to get in, even though his record doesn't show it. You shot against him. I don't know what you thought of him, but is Roger Crozier. But maybe two of the longest shots in the world. But like you say, I think things have gotten political when it comes to the Hall of Fame.
Well, the game has changed so much that there should be maybe some categories.
Yes.
This is another thing. What's this? When Pat Burns was elected to the Hall of Fame and Pat Quinn, those guys had the staff automatically to be in when they were alive. They waited until they both died.
Right.
They died of disease. Okay? Liver and Burnsy had
I think Burnsy had some kind of cancer. I don't remember.
That's what I know. So it was so sad.
It was sad, yeah.
And why? Why did they go after? Was it that many guys? And then at the time with Pat Burns, the country needed a little lift.
Sure.
It's almost like what happened with this young man with the Buffalo Bills.
Yes.
You see how fast the country gets together after all the baloney we go through. It's unbelievable. Everybody just, hey, this is the sport. This is what it's all about. And there's those two guys that I know personally.
Sure.
That I played against, and he was a coach, very successful. And Bernstein is the same thing.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So sad.
You know.
And it's who's in charge of that. There's no compassion.
No. Exactly. Listen, I'm going to leave you. I want to touch on two things, and then I'm going to let you go because I know your time is valuable, and this was really great by you tonight. I want to ask you something about 1973-74. You came into the Chicago Stadium, and if I don't know if you remember this, and Tony Esposito and Bernie Perrant were battling for the Vezina Trophy. And Espo had a 2-goal lead on Bernie, and that's all he had to do was not get up those two. But of course, you came into town, you were still with Detroit, and you popped a couple against my idol. Is it true, and be honest with me, that you bought Bernie Perrant all fishing, or Perrant bought you fishing equipment?
That's not true. But Bernie was all excited. For me, it was not so much of Tony. It's me and Mickey Redmond. We had a bet, like who was going to finish first on the team.
Oh, God.
So I got the second one. In the meantime, somebody said, "Oh, geez, that's a good." 30 was excited. I put it by one. Oh my God.
Yeah, because now Tony had to share it with Bernie. But the rumor was that Perrant bought you all fishing equipment for the season. So I said to a buddy of mine, an old goalie who played with me, Ron Globus, says, "John, you got to ask Marcel that story and find out the truth." I go, "I will find out." All right, I'm going to leave you with this one, and then I want you to think quick. If you were running a team right now, Marcel Dionne, who are your top 5 goalies that you would want on your team? The top 5 that gave you trouble, even though it looks like you didn't have any trouble scoring 731 goals. But who would be your top 5 goalies?
Yeah, you know what? Here's what I'm going to tell you. I got a photo here. I can back it up. Okay? I'll tell you this as quick as I can. We were at the All-Star game when it's celebration, and they called everybody in the top 100 players,
right,
or whatever. And I'm looking at the 6 goalies there. John, this is true, sir. There's 6 goalies. And I look at them. Geez, I got to take a photo of that. All these guys, it's rare you see that, right?
Right.
Then I said, I realized this. I got to be in that photo. So I start walking, about a foot from there. And I said, hey, guys, can I take a photo with you, right? So Billy Smith was there, and Tony was there, and Bernie Perrant, and Dryden, Billy Smith, and Grant Pierre.
Right.
We got what's his name? I lost it. With Buffalo.
Oh, yeah, Hessick.
That's right, Dominic.
Yeah, Dominic Hessick.
They grabbed me, and I said to them, thank you, John, be famous. So I got this photo. It's unbelievable. Ashik looked at me, and I knew I didn't play against him, and I said, hey, Dominic, you're lucky, because I would have scored a few against you.
I loved it. You know, when you called me on my birthday, you had told the story, and I just loved it. I loved it.
But let me tell you, these guys, and I didn't know it's amazing that I didn't know if Grant Shear won the Vezina because I did something in that photo.
Right.
Because I played against him, the scores were 8-6, 9-8.
Right.
They never yanked them out.
No.
4 cups, and he was really good. They love that guy. It's not amazing, but he's right. Won 6 Stanley Cup.
Wow.
And the most fire goalie is Jacques Blanc.
Yeah.
And Billy Smith for Tony. I don't know if you know this one. Do you know that Tony won 2 Stanley Cup?
He won one with Montreal. He won them both with Montreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but never any. Yeah.
John, I didn't know you before, but I'm really impressed. You're a really smart guy.
Yeah, thank you, Marcel. No, and Marcel.
He won. He's got his name on the cup, but he didn't play.
No, because it was Rogie and Gump Worsley But Tony was the backup because Worsley couldn't decide if he wanted to play or not anymore. He always would get hurt, and he had issues with Sam Pollock. Listen, I'm going to leave you with this. The next time we do this, we want to see that good-looking face. I didn't want to steal the show by putting my face on here tonight, Marcel.
My face will look beat up.
No, it looks good. But I got to tell you.
Maybe I'll have a nice girl sitting right beside me.
Marcel, I got to tell you, in 1998, besides being inducted into the Hall, you were ranked number 38 on the Hockey News list of the 100 greatest players ever to play the game. So I'm going to leave you with the best French that I could come up with. Fantastique, les magnifiques, and merci beaucoup, Marcel Dionne. I thank you tonight for coming on the podcast. This was great. And like you told me in the cameo, from one Hall of Famer to another Hall of Famer, I thank you.
I appreciate it. I really enjoyed this interview. I'll tell you right now.